Good evening. My name is Ryan Harvey. Recently I was asked to make a video to explain why I would make a great intern for BigStuf camps. Initially, the idea of coming up with a list of reasons why I make a great intern, I was shocked, if not terrified. The idea alone of qualifying myself made me literally pee with fear. Then I realized that you actually gave us a list of requirements that would make a successful intern. And as I read the list, I realized that I actually met, if not exceeded, every single one. But how do I, in a fun and creative way, convey my ability to meet or exceed your expectations? I mean, I could have taken you around and actually filmed myself completing every single task that you list in your requirements. But I figured that wouldn't be very fun or creative. Then I realized, Ryan, you have a God-given gift. Many people, if not hundreds of thousands, have told me I have the gift of speed sketching. An elderly couple once told me that actually my gift of speed sketching was actually a gift of the Spirit. Now, I've not seen any biblical foundation for such a gift, but I have to agree that my sketches are quite amazing. So I figure what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll read you each one of the requirements that you've specified, and then I will quickly sketch myself performing each one of those actions. So if we look at your list, the first thing you say is that a successful applicant must have a personal commitment to Jesus Christ as Savior and active involvement in a local church. So now I'm going to go ahead in the next few seconds draw a sketch of myself that I feel like thoroughly portrays the fact that I do meet this requirement. So I'll go ahead and go here. And done. As you'll see here, the sketch is quite complex. Up here you have a picture of me on this bicycle with my friend Jesus. We're riding bikes. Notice the speed. Jesus rides fast. Also he's Jesus because he has a beard, long hair, and the obvious halo. Next is a picture of myself and Jesus baking a souffle. I will say that a souffle, to be thoroughly baked, is a gift of the Spirit all on its own. Second is a picture of me at church just after Jesus has actually stage dove from the stage. Notice here I'm the very first one in the front. Now a true friend of Jesus would be the very first one to catch him after a stage dive. Now lastly I have a picture of myself and my friend Greg. Greg and I like to go bowling. Notice there's no halo. It's definitely Greg. The next requirement on your list that you've given out to us so graciously, a desire to be a team member in a ministry dedicated to communicating the refreshing Spirit of Christ, the truth of His Word, and the difference that living for Him can make in our lives. Now this is a pretty abstract sketch, but I can tell you what, abstract is where I excel. So, 1 second please. You know, someone once told me that actually one of the primary abilities that are required to be a successful speed sketcher is just the ability to not pay attention to what you're drawing at all. I think if you can actually just not at all focus on the things you're drawing, you tend to get the best results from your sketches. So, here we go. I think it's done. Refreshing Spirit of Christ, refreshing melon. The next thing on your item on your list is a servant's heart reflecting in a willing attitude. You ever wondered how long you might exist if you're forced to live on a planet all by yourself for about 3 months? I mean, this is theoretically in 10 years, you know, when space travel is, I mean, everyone's doing it. So, I mean, imagine you got stranded on Neptune, maybe, and all you had was a few kernels of space corn. I mean, because we gotta be honest, agriculture is pretty much a universal science. And so I'm just, I wonder a lot, could I survive on a diet of nothing but Neptunian space corn for about a month and a half? I don't know. I mean, I've had friends who eat nothing but real corn on Earth for about a month, and the results weren't so pretty. So I've always got to wonder, you got to ask yourself, could you survive on Neptune for a month and a half? And done. I present to you myself, reflected in a mirror. My heart is reflected. You see, I've got some a towel and some glasses of maybe non-alcoholic champagne, and that's to reflect my servant's heart. And there's also, you asked for the Will I Am attitude, and so I've drawn myself as Will I Am with the haircut and of course the signature Will I Am glasses. The next requirement you've listed is must have graduated high school by June of 2011 and or completed 1 year of college. One time in kindergarten I was terrified of the bathroom. We were making snakes out of our father's ties, and then I had a rumbling and my stumbling, and I decided to go into the bathroom, but the fear overcame me, and as I stood in front of the toilet, I soiled myself. Now, don't worry, the kids didn't notice, at least for the first 10 minutes or so, but then it was discovered that I soiled myself, and it might have been one of the proudest moments of my entire life. I present to you a picture of my grandmother. Her name is Sue Ellen. She's about 4 feet tall, 8 inches. On her hoodie, as you'll read, my grandson graduated from IU May of 2012. Now, my grandmother's not a liar, and she wouldn't wear the shirt if she wasn't being serious. The next requirement on your list, minimum of 18 years of age. I've always wondered why Samuel L. Jackson hasn't started his own a la carte plain food service. Maybe calling something like shakes on a plane, or maybe steaks on a plane, you know? I feel like I would buy a shake or a steak from Samuel L. Jackson. Here's a picture of me holding a package of cigarettes. You can't buy cigarettes unless you're 18, at least in the state of Indiana where I live. And don't worry, I don't smoke cigarettes. I actually gave this package to a bunch of children. Must be willing to raise support to cover expenses. Doing this creates a support team of prayer for the interns for the summer and allows God to provide for the work He's called the interns to do. You know, I think it's largely underestimated the value of a nice pair of very tight slacks. I think tight slacks, they just keep you in the zone, they keep the blood flow going, and anytime you sit down, you're always in for a surprise. I think it keeps life a bit on the edge. Here's a picture of me raising support. You'll see here between $3,000 and $4,200. I'm actually raising somewhere in between $3,000 and $4,200. If you look at the look on my face, I'm smiling. This is a cakewalk. I'm not even breaking a sweat. Raising this kind of support is nothing. I think $3,000 in small, single, unmarked bills would be no problem at all for me to come across and raise it above my head. The next requirement you've listed, must have the ability to do manual labor. Interns will load and unload semi-trucks and lift heavy pieces of equipment, boxes, stage, truss, lighting, etc. First off, we have a picture of me lifting a heavy box. You know it's a heavy box because the box says heavy, in fact heavy. Second, you listed that I need to go ahead and be able to load and unload semi-trucks. So here is me lifting an entire semi-truck above my head. And here's a picture of me lifting a semi into the back of another semi. And finally, here's a picture of me holding another intern over my head, just in case somebody needs to know who's the boss. Now, I think that does conclude all the requirements that you listed. Now, I will go ahead and leave you with one last gift, and this is a gift that I developed around the age of 6, and that was the ability to effectively draw a maverick. Now, you might be wondering what a maverick is. Now, let me tell you first off, maverick are no laughing matter. My grandmother, Sue Ellen, who I showed you earlier, is actually a maverick farmer on the coast of Oregon for about 6 years of her life. And I got to meet one of these mavericks. Now, a maverick is, of course, a man-cow brick. You know, people actually frequently ask me how I grew such an amazing non-spotty beard, and I can tell you that a little-known fact is that the milk of mavericks actually aids greatly in the growth of beards. Now, I was drinking maverick milk by the time I was about 3 and a half and had a full chest of hair at the age of 6. Now, of course, some children were terrified, but when I showed them a picture of the maverick, they were too awe-inspired to even ask questions anymore. My grandmother actually has more hair on her chest than I do because she's grew up her entire life drinking maverick milk. So, here we go. Prepare to be set in awe. I think this picture by itself explains why I would make a great intern at BigStuf camps. I present to you the maverick. Notice the head of a man, yet the horns of a cow. The body of a cow with the spots of a cow. The surprising part, feet of bricks. So I think these sketches, along with my hobbyist enthusiasm, really thoroughly convey to you why I would make a great intern at BigStuf camps. So I hope you've enjoyed my video, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks.